Hello and welcome to an exciting edition of Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's debate, we're going to be focusing on some trending issues in our country, Liberia. This issue range from President Weah's visit to the United Nations General Assembly all the way to the endorsement of the latest endorsement of Mr. Alexander Cummins's bid for the presidency. And we also have an exciting segment called that who's supposed to campaign. That who's supposed to campaign for whom? You're going to see the details of what that entails. But right now, let me introduce the host of the Hour of Politics, Mr. Anthony Cie, who lives, eat, drink, and sleep politics. Mr. Cie, welcome to Focus on Liberia. On mute, please.
Thank you. And I was just saying it's good to be here. Another Friday night debate here at Focus on Liberia. We have exciting issues to talk about. I will want to take this time to welcome all our viewers across the world. Come, let us debate the issues concerning Liberia. Let us do that, Dennis.
Thank you. And we want to welcome Mr. Jerome Gilman. He's the unapologetic, unabashed seditious. He's going to be toting the CDC line tonight, but we love that. We welcome it. Mr. Gilman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me once more to your platform to bring to you some good news from the Republic of Liberia on behalf of the most talented president Liberia has ever had since 1847, Dr. George Manning Weah. I
want to also welcome Mr. Jonathan Tayo Dolake. Mr. Dolake is a supporter of Mr. Alexander Cumins and a member of the Alternative National Congress. Mr. Dolake, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you so very kindly, Dennis, and thanks to Cie for the opportunity given us today to have a civil conversation about our country, the missteps, the needed recommendation, and the way forward for our country.
Too many things are happening in our country today. Councillor Tiawan say Gonglo won the nomination for the Liberian People's Party. He's represented here tonight by Mr. Ambula Mame. Mr. Mame, welcome to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia.
Always good to be joining you, Dennis. It's my pleasure. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Last and definitely not the least is Mr. P. Morris Krumah. We call him the perfect manager. Mr. Krumah worked for the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. He's not a member of the Unity Party. He's here representing the independent. He's independent-minded, but he is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf leaning when it comes to the administration because he worked in the administration and Mr. Jerome Gilman doesn't like that. Mr. Krumah, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis. It's really good to be here again with all these brothers. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, the home of debate in the entire diaspora internet television, as our CDC friends will say, since 1847. At this time, I want to bring on Mr. Anthony Cie to introduce what we're going to be talking about tonight. Mr. Cie.
Dennis, thank you. In today's edition of Focus on Liberia Friday Night Debate, we will be talking about RIA, that is the Rabat International Airport, that is back in the news. Dennis, this time around, SM Brussels, the airline we know that has now closed its doors on Liberia, this time were forced to close its doors on Liberia by canceling flight to Liberia because of what we continue to experience at the international airport of our country. The panelists are here and we will go into that. They cancel flight, Dennis. Also, President Weah is on his way as we speak to the United Nations, that is the UNGA, and he is the head of Liberian government delegation. And while he is on that journey or that trip, he fires Liberia's ambassador to the United States. What is he up to here? Is he trying to win sympathy from Uncle Sam or from Washington? Is he tactical? Jerome would think so. I don't see it that way. The unquestionable Maurice Kroma is here playing the independent here. Also, free and fair election, transparency. We want to talk about that because the timetable release, as we look at AI focus on Liberia, is not realistic. Well, we have the panel here and they will weigh in. Also, like Dennis said earlier, Alexander Benedict Cummings, to correct that, just earned another political endorsement from a career diplomat and politician, Louis Brown. What does that mean? Is that going to get him across the ocean here or across the river? We will find out. Also, we're talking about Nathaniel Magé. He's in the news. Then, like Dennis said, we have a section we'll be talking about that means supposed to campaign, and we'll be using the Eugene Fagon tone here. So each of the panelists will say who they will campaign for and who they will not campaign for, or to use the word that means supposed to campaign for this person. And if you are to campaign for the other, you also have to give your reason why. This is an exciting debate, and Dennis, it's my honor being part of this discussion. Let us get started.
There is no better place to be than right here on Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Okay, let's start like this with the RIA. Quite recently, there was the RIA role was a problem. Before that, we had the LAA managing director being rejected by the Senate. And now we heard that SN Brussels has canceled or is in the process of canceling flights. Some say, not so fast. So we want to look into it and get your reaction. Mr. Jerome Gamer is an unapologetic sedition. Let me get your take first on this RIA. Is SN Brussels canceling? Not canceling. What's going on with RIA? They say the navigation system is faulty. They can't land when they want to. Poor management. The road is bad and all the 9 yards. What is the truth about this story from the CDC angle, perhaps?
Well, obviously, the opposition and the haters of this president have picked up a false narrative and ran with it without the entire narrative. SN Brussels is not going anywhere. SN Brussels is scheduled to arrive on time in Monrovia on Sunday, as they have scheduled to do. As you know, the airport and the road to the nation's capitals, all of these constructions are going on. And we look forward to maybe another 6-7 months, and everything will be under control, including the road from RIA to Monrovia. Yes, there are intermittent shortages of power and other things that comes with running a dilapidated, old-fashioned, not even an airport airstrip built in 1941. So yes, the president government was brought to power to make changes. Their job is to fix it, and they are fixing it.
Thank you. Mr. Dulake, is this another opposition propaganda, or as SN Brussels canceled? Jerome is saying otherwise.
Thank you so much again for the opportunity. It was reported in Front Page Africa, a newspaper that is known to be investigative, and in most instances, like many other news media networks, have been providing in-depth analysis about missteps of government, ineptitude, corruption, and what have you, had reported about SN Brussels slowing down because of the malfunctioning of the navigation process at the airport. SN Brussels had come out to say that it will resume, they will continue flying to Liberia because it has received that the malfunctioning navigation and all other processes leading to the airport management seems to be in compliance. And so that was the very latest that I received, and it gave reason why the only international airport that should be the doors open up to investment and private citizen movement have always been a center of major controversy under this administration, ranging from insecurity of lighting system, that this government came to fix and have been aware of, where the president had to be kept in Ghana, and even to the departure of the president in the most recent, that what it is quite interesting to me, to the United Nations General Assembly, the very airport has also come under question as to Brussels, one of our international flights, slowing down because of malfunctioning of the navigation system and other things.
Thank you. Perfect Manager, what does this all mean? What first, what do you make of it, and what does it all mean? Could it be that this really happened and the government is playing catch up now, or could it mean that this was just nothing for opposition trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, and then you were in the Ellen government too, and the current government is saying, "Hey, we inherited all this."
So thank you again, Dennis, for the opportunity. So a part of the function of a real government is to create opportunities for mass, foreign direct investment, and encourage, different investment in different sectors of the government. When President Sirleaf took over the country in 2005, we all know, what that country looked like. By 2018, we had Brussels, we had Air France, we had, British Airways, we had all these airlines that were coming to Liberia. Unfortunately, where we are today, we can't seem to tell that story anymore. The only international flight off my head that is going to Liberia directly right now, recognized international flight is Brussels. So when we heard the news about, Brussels attempting to cancel in April, I went to Liberia in this year, April. You remember there was a story about Brussels, turning around and going to Sierra Leone because the airstrip lights were off. I was on that plane, so I remember that story. I had my wife and my little baby on the plane, and we were in so much fear. It's unimaginable how you feel when a plane is about to land and all the lights go off, and the pilot had to redirect to go back in the air and go to Sierra Leone, make sure the lights come on. We spend 1 hour in Sierra Leone, fly back to Liberia when they put the lights back on. That is a threat to the life of Liberians and other friends of Liberia as a country that is trying just to go to the country and do something. So with that, and even the president's life being, at stake, nothing has happened to fix this problem. It's been several months that we're hearing stories upon stories about this one airport. Then there is leadership problem. That means there is leadership deficit. That means even the president is insensitive to the problem that is happening at the airport, or the president is clueless about how to fix this problem. When the president goes to Philadelphia and pick up, and some kind of mechanic man that was fixing plane, or I don't know his function in Philly, to make him the manager of the airport, it tells you how insensitive the president is to the threat that we're facing at that airport, unless something catastrophic happens. And that catastrophic issue, when it happens, the liability will fall on the airline. So it makes sense for the airline to say, well, if the Liberian people don't want to fix their problem, then we'd rather protect our investment and let them fix the problem, or we stay away until that problem is resolved before we start to fly back to Liberia. And once Brussels stop going to Liberia, Sierra Leone is also going to be affected by it, because it is the route from Liberia to Sierra Leone, and then they fly to Europe. If you take out Liberia out of the picture, they will not have enough passengers from Sierra Leone to fly to Brussels. So it poses a threat to the people in Sierra Leone as well. So unless Liberia demonstrates some serious leadership and fix the problem at the airport, Liberia and Sierra Leone passengers may be in a serious issue. And I think President Weah is very insensitive to the issues that are happening at the airport.
Let me bring in Mr. Mame to the discussion here on the airport. Mame, what are you hearing about the airport, and what will Tiawan Gonglo do differently when he gets power?
So, okay, it's good that you put this on the screen so we all are on the same page. That for sure Brussels actually pull out, even though it was temporary. We just wanted to be clear about that. It's not an opposition propaganda. It's not an intention to make a mountain out of a hill. The BBC reported it, and even SM Brussels, released a statement to that. But I want to discuss this SM Brussels issue in the context of leadership and decision making for a poor country. The president said we should judge him on the quality of the decision he makes, not the fluency of the language he uses. You take over a poor country, kids are sitting on the floor. Women die in hospital when they go to give birth because there is no medication or because there is no gas in the generator and lights goes off. You take over a country constrained, you inherited a country dead poor. Revenue to address those problems are tight. Any president with his head on his head, with his head on his shoulder, will prioritize the sources of revenue to your country so that you increase revenue and invest into areas that provide returns. George Weah takes over a country in poverty. He prioritizes building a park, a sport park. He pays attention to that, spends hundreds of thousands on building a sport park that generates no immediate return, no revenue to the country. He abandons and pays low attention to a primary source of revenue to his country. The issue about the airport is not 1 month, it's not 2 months, it's been over a year. You want to understand the importance of the port to your revenue generation, you have a budget of 570 million. It's 1% of the revenue you intend to generate to solve your problem comes from domestic sources. International trade and taxes constitute 169.2 million. When you're talking about international trade and taxes, you're talking about your airport and your seaport. It tells you how significant the airport is, both to attracting investment, but without attracting investment to generating revenue. You pay less attention to that without addressing it, and you direct resources to building a playground that will demand more money for maintenance and repair, and you generate no money back. But you abandon an airport that should increase revenue so you can use to address the problem you inherited. It speaks to the quality of decision our president is making. And it confirms what all of us know, but pretending to act like we don't know, that Weah is incompetent. He's not in charge. He has outsourced the responsibility of the presidency. And this airport issue is a confirmation of his insensitivity, his lack of leadership, and how he has outsourced the presidency and sitting dancing buka.
Thank you, Mambe and Dennis. I would like for the panelists to weigh in a little more. When I think 2 or 3 incidents happened regarding the very airport, the most recent, not this one with SM Brussels canceling flight, the government even took foreign ambassadors at the airport. In no time, they said they were bringing $24 million to spend. How could they not have, done something with the navigation system? You know that the issue with the navigation system is not working, no flag on the land. Now, the other issue I want you guys to take into consideration is the airport will tell us whether tourists, we're talking about tourism, right, to make money. And the government said that that's one thing it's trying to prioritize, even though when you look at the budget, the last time I checked, about 2,500. But to that, how are these tourists going to come to Liberia? How will tourism be possible in Liberia when there's no airport to go through? And again, I will ask the question for you, the debaters tonight, to look at it. What has happened to the $24 million they talk about? What was the reason they took the ambassadors there? At some point, Samuel Twelve said, well, they just needed to come up with $10 million to connect the West African power pool at the airport. I mean, at some point, President Weah's life was even threatened. So we are risking the life of our visitors, our friends, including Liberians. What does it have to take for us to solve this problem? And does it show that our government is either, not capable of solving the problem, or is it that the government does not see the seriousness of the problem? Then it mentioned earlier about the RIA road. How it's like a death trap. Let me hear you.
And you don't have to mention the kick plane, right?
And Dennis,
I mean, I was going to come to that, but I'm glad that
was dedicated, and we have our foreign minister.
Because that plane was supposed to be an international aircraft as well.
Of course.
So maybe we don't need Brussels if we have this kick.
Yes, and they said the first flight we're going to take off in October of 2020. This is 2020.
Mr. Gamer, what's your take?
Well, thank you very much. And the reason that I'm soaking it up is because this is an area that everybody knows we have the facts. And the reason I like to debate some of you guys is because when I come, I bring facts and I will beat you on the head with it. So let's go. Let me give you my personal experience. When I was vice president of the Chamber of Commerce here, every time I went to recruit to bring major corporations to Florida, there are 4 questions I have to answer. Number 1, and that is public utility. Mr. Gaiman, does St. Lucie County has public utility? We're talking about light. We're talking about all of those things that have to do with public, including water, road. Those are all public utilities. The second that I have to answer is school district. Does your area have the school district enough to accommodate my workforce? And third, they will ask me if I have a workforce development. Now, let's go to Liberia. If you wanted to bring investors to Liberia, you have to answer those questions. Do you have public utilities? According to the World Bank, just recently, yesterday, Liberia has one of the lowest electricity access rate in the world at 15%. That means 85% of the entire country has no access to utilities. And no company is going to come to Liberia. And you talk about running the airport without constant utilities. It doesn't matter what you do, the airport will not run. So what has this government done? According to the World Bank, now this government appropriated $14 million, and Front Page Africa carried that Liberia prepares to connect to the CLFG grid. We gave $14 million. That is seriousness. That is competence. When the president said, don't judge me by the eloquence, but what I do, my friend, here we are. The president is talking do. We promised 25 million. We came down with 14 million.
Mr. Gamer, let me interrupt you quickly.
Can I jump in there quickly?
Yeah, one second. Mr. Gamer, we're talking about the RIA. This one is a report from BBC talking about Brussels Airlines has canceled all flights to Liberia over a malfunctioning navigation system at the main airport.
That's correct.
It said all passengers affected by the cancellation will be contacted.
Yes, that was before then. You are not reading the most recent one. I think Mr. Doloke read the most recent one on Front Page Africa. So I'm looking at it.
Okay.
That Liberia has satisfied those requirements, and flight will resume immediately. That's what it's showing here, unless you are not on Front Page Africa, but it's right here. So.
No, I thought you were trying to dispute the story. That is
no, we are not. No, we are not disputing at all.
I mean, I wanted to jump in the Mr. Gaiman statement that he was making about investment and the 15% electricity provision he's talking about. So those are facts, and I really admire the fact that you brought them up. Between 2005 and 2017, I mean, by 2003, actually, when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf took over the country, there was zero electricity, zero public electricity in the country. Zero. Right? So between 2005 and 2017, we went up to 14%. So technically, between 2017 and 2022, you've only added 1% electricity to the country. So the CLSG that you're talking about, 14% and $14 million that you gave to CLSG, that is an effort from the Sirleaf administration. CLSG, let me explain to you, Mr. Gaiman, give me a chance, because it's good to throw out these jargons and all these statements that you're making, but we are engaging with the public, so we need to provide the facts. Don't get half true. Give all the facts. CLSG is the extra power that Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, and Guinea agreed to distribute power amongst the neighboring countries. Currently, Ivory Coast has more power, so Liberia has been able to obtain power through the CLSG process that I've given. I was in Liberia when the transmission system was when the transmitter site was built right opposite the airport. I was there right by the hotel. I was in Liberia when that site was built. So imagine, and I left Liberia in 2018. It demonstrates how incompetent and unqualified these people are in the Weah administration. The people brought power right opposite the airport. The power is there. But the airport administrators, the finance minister, the energy minister, none of them are able to negotiate with CLSG to get that power to the airport to keep the airport functioning. It demonstrates clearly that there is no leadership in that country at the current moment. And then you talk about how, 15% power, nobody can come. But Brussels was there. Air France was there. All these different international Delta was flying to Liberia. Where were you when all these airlines were going to Liberia? So between 2017 and 2022, now suddenly nobody can invest in the country because only 15% power in the country. Before all of this power that you're talking about, Mr. Gaiman, airlines were still flying to Liberia. It took leadership, it took effort, it took hard work. It took working 7 days a week to make sure those things happen. And so when you talk about this leadership thing and talk about the investment, spare us the joke. There are plenty of jokers in the Weah administration that have zero clue about how to get some of these things done. But they sit on social media, they spend the entire time on social media. And that's the reason why things are not happening in the country for all of us. We can't sit down here and can't sugarcoat it. Let's be honest with one another here.
Thank you.
Just to address that, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gaiman, just end your thought before we Mami or Jonathan can come up to answer Anthony's question.
The problem that Mr. Nkrumah has there.
And Mr. Gaiman, don't forget about the rainy season solution that your finance minister has proposed.
Sir, this is when we are talking here. This is what we are talking. When we talk about this particular grid that we are talking about, if Mr. Nkrumah had the full knowledge of it, I knew about it because it was part of the Obama plan. We used to call it the African Power Pool. The question that the Ellen government did not answer. Yes, this contract was signed. The idea was signed into contract. The answer was, how would these power that's going to lead this whole place from Kipamos all the way to Monrovia to Nima to Bong to Grand Bassa County and Obo, how would this power be paid for? Ellen Johnson did not give a blueprint as to if you connect all these homes, all these villages.
That's not true.
Excuse me.
Hold on, Morris.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Even Morris will not tell you that if we connect all the villages from Kawekin all the way to Bassa, to my hometown, where the people have no jobs, there's no economic activity, how do we pay for the power here that is coming to these counties?
All right. Thank you. I know that's an important question.
I can answer that question.
Dennis is not answering the question. He's dancing around the issue.
Yeah.
I can answer the question. Here is that we had this low capacity or availability of power. Yet, Liberia under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf ran the airport without flight cancellation and all of these issues. Now the percentage of power now is up to 14%, and you think we can do that? And that's the question you're not answering. And you are
And he's not going to answer. Let's go to Mami or Jonathan.
We suspend that.
Yeah, he's spinning it. You can concede, Mr. Gamer. It's okay to concede.
I don't want to
go ahead, Mami.
Abdullah's time. Abdullah, go ahead because
let Mami go for a minute, Jonathan, a minute, then we go to the next issue. We have a packed menu tonight.
Yeah. So, like I said, it boils down to decision making, and you can't spin it that because the government made a promise of providing 14 million, then that's leadership, that's sound decision making. Let me rewind your thinking. Go back towards 2019 when we had took over. Realizing energy deficiency. You have CLSG available to provide you power. You only needed to go and commit resources. You had the McCoffey Hydro who had turbine issues that you only needed to invest a little bit of money in and ensure that it was working well. And then ensure your distribution mechanism was decentralized from LEC. But because people took power in that country without understanding the responsibility and now wanting to listen to people, this is what we did. These are steps towards addressing power issues. One, we have signed a contract with Power Energy, a Turkish energy supplier that basically brings to your country, the model is they basically bring to your country a power ship. They dock the ship to your airport and you are responsible for distribution. Not knowing the energy bank that he already had, we have signed an agreement with Power Energy to bring a ship that the government will have spent additional money to distribute power from the ship. It took the effort of the US government, all other international partners that have been investing in the sector. They wrote a public letter to WIA, is on Front Page Africa. They wrote a public letter to WIA telling him that your problem is not the absence of electricity. Your problem is the inability to distribute what you already have. You have CLSG, you have the McCoffey power. What your problem lies is your inability to distribute. So there is no need to bring additional power when the one you already have, you are not distributing it. LEC has an excess of over 50% of what it was distributing residing in the dock and not distributed because the distribution mechanism was poor. So because of poor thinking and poor leadership, you have power, you abandon it, and when some contract with another group of people to bring power that you already had, that failed. The US government, the EU, and all the other donor partners wrote a public letter to WIA before he withdrew and canceled that agreement with Power Energy. Then he pivoted to solving electricity problem with substandard street solar lights and started investing huge amount of money into putting solar lights on the streets. And we said, but where in the world you want to address power deficiency by putting lights on the streets? You have to be critical in making these decisions. One, you spend 200, you spend 100, you spend maybe $1.2 million to bring in street lights. You put it on the streets, nobody paying taxes on the street lights. You're not generating any revenue from the street lights. The stores that those street lights are, even those stores are closing by 7 o'clock because no lights in the street, no lights in the store. Everybody go home, the street light is bright on the street, nobody using it, but the homes are dark. So people say, no, you don't spend on street lights because you will not generate income to be able to distribute to other people. Instead, distribute to homes, distribute to businesses. Those businesses will pay taxes they will pay their electricity fees. And you use the fee to expand electricity to other people, and then gradually before you provide public services. So just from the beginning of going into contract with Power Energy, knowing that you already have power, that was poor leadership. That was poor decision making because you already had what you went to bring. Forgetting about that, spending hundreds of thousands on solar street lights. Today, you can't find them in the streets because they were substandard. Those are poor leadership. So you don't blame the situation to the airport on the lack of electricity. Because like, Perfect Krumah said, with the limited electricity you spoke about, 14%, we had Delta flying directly to Liberia from the US. They were not pulling away. So you need to tell the president the reality. Mr. President, you have outsourced the presidency. Take time and reflect. Confront the reality. You are leading a poor country. You need to sit. But one time Maggie told me something. He said,
thank you, Mami. Let me bring in Jonathan so we can go to the next issue. Jonathan, if you want to say anything about the RIA, or we can move to the next.
Look, very quickly, we have to be serious. And we have to be very, very serious. Serious in the sense that we are 175 years lagging behind the rest of the world. This political party, the ruling establishment, claimed to ride on the mantra of change, meaning if it was not appropriate, or it was somewhat, or it needs improvement, they would have done it far better. It is disingenuous, and not only that, but it is also irresponsible that at this particular point in time, all of us young people who are saying the reason why we have the situation we had in 1990, 1989, that brought us on political integration of our problems as a result of economic or destruction of our country, we are yet not focused on the issues void of the political institution that we come from. Krumah said it quite well. By 2005 in Liberia, we never had utilities. Let me straight to the point. It was initiated. Now, we are speaking about our RIA. For all indication, our revenue generation median should be jealously protected, and value should be added to it. So if you have one and you cannot administer it properly, indeed it's a problem for us. By 2018 to 2019, we already have shortage of gasoline at the LPRC, with the government being aware through the transitional process that there was normal procurement and import of petroleum, which is mere arithmetic. They could not do it properly, and we ran into economic crisis, which were political in nature, and they felt to blame the opposition. When they had the government, they collect taxes to perform their duty. But let me just go further. The ECOWAS power pool, as it was called, it was intended from different angles, through the ECOWAS parliament, through different forums, as a means of security to the sub-region through electricity. This power pool, as we speak today, an individual in person of Floyd Thomas of Nimba County is ably managing this process for the Ganta region. What has been the problem that even Ambassador McCarthy spoke of when he came to Liberia and he had to make a section on the electricity process, which is also linked to why electricity should be at RIA. It was mismanaged. What Ambula said is what the government was leading to. President Weah, her unthinkable officials and agents of government. But he said that it is due to lack of management. There have been theft of LEC. Homes of officials of government receive LEC without paying what it should be paying. Hotels are receiving, they are not paying according to the revenue generation. So on the basis of that, LEC was not asking government of Liberia of a $5 million debt. So
thank you, Jonathan.
We've had issues, and the best way to solve each of the issues that we have had about our country is to face it and correct it. Even if Brussels had come back and said Liberia had met her obligation, shame on us as a country that we cannot do the elementary requirement for safety, and then our partners have to put us in check like even the ambassadors did for the LEC business and for other misgivings in government about the usage of finances at the central bank, and they have to warn us. It is irresponsible. We have to know how government function so that we take the appropriate steps. And it is just embarrassing that the CDC government is doing this to us. But what is important is that we have the opportunity come next year to make that corrective measure so that we can ask them democratically.
Thank you. This time we're going to go to the next issue, and Mr. Sie will ask the question, but here is it. President leaves for the United Nations General Assembly today. Ahead of that, he has replaced his ambassador to the U.S. So we want each of you to go one time on this, and then we move to the next as our time is far. We are pressed with time, Mr. Sie.
And the question here is, usually these kind of meetings or summit can be opportunity for presidents of nations to ensure that they bring some form of investment to the country and not just attending meeting. What should we expect as a country to benefit from this trip being paid for by the taxpayer dollars when we already know the very America that President Weah is coming to for this meeting has sanctioned the very government, some officials of the government, and is in a constant habit of rebuking this government openly for poor management of the nation. Should we expect anything?
Mr. Dulaka, you go first.
Okay.
And let's keep to at least a minute or so.
Okay, I will make it very brief. And my answer to that question will be a question that is rhetorical and will provide much more meaning. What has been the result that we have accrued from lobby with hundreds of millions of US dollars at Washington or in Washington to image make the government in the wake of the government on undercuttings will give us a clear picture as to how we can rationalize what we have done before to hope of what the president deliverables at the United Nations General Assembly will bring for us. And so to put in quick perspective, we'll first look at some of the things that the decision the president has made, the most recent, regarding the issue of sanctions, for example. What steps did the president take towards that? What have been the dividend that we have accrued out of hundreds of millions that have been given to people, lobbies, in order to lobby on our behalf so that we can have the most appropriate attention from the government and people of the United States in keeping with our rule of law, in keeping with corruption, in keeping with the judicial process, in keeping with good governance, would be the question. And if that answer, it is below the belt of being proud of what we have done, then definitely we should anticipate a rough ride with the president being there, because they are also aware of what we are doing here.
Mr. Dulaka, before you end, you keep stressing the lobbying. Your candidate, Mr. Alexander Cummings, is reported also lobbying the U.S. government.
Yeah, and let me say, Liberians around the world, it is a nomenclature that can be described, that can be best described by those where you set to describe it. Liberians are complaining generally. Some of the things that they are complaining about, they are fast and they are scientific. And so if one will claim that, but speaking of those misgivings in government, like what Brussels has just done, is lobbying against the government and people of Liberia, then you can take it at that way. But what I can say of a certainty is that when you are on the right path and taking the appropriate decision, no matter the challenges that you are faced with, there will be nobody whatsoever that will lobby against you. And any decent government, especially the government of the United States of America, will take care of any significant importance if they are seeing a pathway laid down that can be scientifically tested. So there will be a mere propaganda. So what people are saying, it does not fit. We need to fix the country. We need to face this reality. And I hope Gilman and others can speak to these reality so that we can challenge them on the records.
Let's bring Morris before Gaiman. Morris, the same question from Anthony.
What was the question again? I step out for.
Well, yeah, what he was saying is the president is coming to the States here. What would be the benefit apart from just coming to attend? And ahead of that coming, he fired his ambassador. I don't know what we can read from that.
Yeah. So I mean, typically, President Weah is coming to the UNGA. It's normal international protocol. It's not a bad thing. He's the president of the country. He's coming to represent us. Ideally, sometimes if he knows what he's doing, this is an opportunity for him to pitch, the interest of the country when he comes to meet these world leaders. He's supposed to be able to pitch, pick up specific priority areas that he wants to connect with these world leaders on, that he can talk about issues about development. If you sit in the room with President Biden, you want to be able to talk to him about issues about youth employment, about energy, stuff like that, and get a commitment from President Biden before you leave the room. If you have the opportunity to sit with other world leaders, you want to be able to pitch some of those little ideas. Billionaires that are coming to the UNGA, you want to be able to engage them so you can get some good opportunities. Unfortunately, I don't think President Weah is prepared at that level. As far as dismissing the ambassador just ahead of the president's trip, those are smoking guns. I do honestly believe something is on it. I think the president is going to come here. He's going to have a quote-unquote successful trip, as the CDC people will put it. He will go back to Liberia. Something dramatic will happen. I'm not going to say I'm just going to leave it as it is right now. He's going to come. He's going to have all his meetings he's going to have. He's going to go back to Liberia, and something dramatic will happen when the president returns to Liberia.
Like what?
There might be some major changes within the government. I really believe that, with what the U.S. ambassador is doing in Liberia, it's a clear concern to the United States government. And so when President Weah comes here, he's going to get, this kind of conversation happening behind closed doors, and it might just shake him up a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. I know you can't wait.
I can't wait because for me this is like a diplomatic class, and I'm going to teach it for free. Let me turn to Mr. Cummings over here. Mr. Jonathan Tyre Dulaker. He represents Cummings, one of the most miserably and failed managers in American history. Cummings was asked to leave Coca-Cola for mismanagement and incompetence. He caused Coca-Cola $900 million for 5 different lawsuits: sexual harassment, failure to promote on a merit basis. Cummings, his failure for racism, all of these things are all. And if you ask Mr. Dulaker now, why Coca-Cola, why Mr. Cummings did not honorably retire from Coca-Cola, there is no writing, no video of a ceremonial retirement from Mr. Cummings in Coca-Cola. He left. He was unceremoniously booed out of there at the age of 57, I think it was. It is unusual. And there's an organization out here that have put out $25,000 for Mr. Dulaker. If you can produce a letter, a videotape of him or anybody that ever traveled with this man to his retirement. And 2, where was he when he worked with the Ellen government in other areas? Where was his advocacy for all of these things that we are talking about?
When who? Dulaker or Cummings work with Ellen government?
Where he represents Cummings here, right?
I'm asking who worked with Ellen Goldman.
He said
I said
Cummings.
Cummings, Alexander Cummings. But
What
now
role was he playing? What was the position in Ellen
it
Goldman?
doesn't matter. He was appointed by the government, by the president.
Well, President Weah was also appointed.
It doesn't matter. We are talking
okay.
about. There's no denial here.
Let's before Mommy come in, let's give our Jonathan 30 seconds to respond quickly.
You know, we gotta be serious. We gotta
Jonathan,
be serious.
this is serious.
We gotta be serious, and I think Jerome gotta be very serious. And, you know, this is not just for entertainment. The unique thing about these conversations we are having here is that these conversations are recorded. We are in the 21st century. Technology is very powerful. Do not make a statement here that after a few days, it seems to be embarrassing to even see yourself making such a statement. One, Mr. Cummings' retirement to be a challenge. It cannot be a CDC theater discussion wherein we're talking about the confirmation, rejection of Wabodiki, and take, for example, a sedition at Carlos Gray, or Malu was stating that Edward J. Roy was a Nigerian, and so Liberia should accept a Nigerian to be a citizen when Edward J. Roy died far before Nigeria became a country. So I want us to be very careful how we disseminate information. Mr. Cummings retired, and if you need a benefit of the doubt, it is not beyond your clue to appropriately communicate with Coca-Cola War and ascertain the facts. You don't have to request another person to do such a research for you. It is your responsibility to do it appropriately. But we understand the nature why. What we are saying here about the misgiving of government, is that there will always be gaps. And least you think to be ashamed of performing your role in government. President Weah was brought to the government system through Peace Ambassador role to perform. It is a calling to duty. Mr. Cummings was called to perform. Because of the gaps, it is why Mr. Cummings, the lack of jetty, the lack of habia, was called to help in the creativity and sustenance of the BWI. And so don't be ashamed of it. Why you should be ashamed of is President Weah, who worked as senator and peace ambassador and graded the government 15%, yet today are able to persecute people, but shifting blame, and which is irresponsible. And these are some of the reasons why we have an incapacity situation at the RIA at different levels. And that is the break on which we are going to let you guys off, because you cannot communicate truthfully what you stand for. You try to besmear people's character, and you shift the argument from taking a rightful decision to being just laissez-faire and don't care about what the Liberian
Dennis, let me come in, please.
I think we're talking about the ambassador and the president trip.
Yeah, the information put out by Mr. Jerome Gilman cannot be substantiated that there's no record nowhere whatsoever that Alexander Benedict Cummings honorably retired from Coca-Cola.
We have one press release from Coca-Cola that was said. One press release. There is no retirement package. There were no their fanfare retirement that they do where your family comes and they give you watches, they give you stuff. It never happened. There is no video. There is no ceremony. We have press release. I have that copy of that press release. When you go to their website, it is there. We have that. You also can pull up the court documents of the lawsuit. I have those. I can pass them on to you too.
Yeah, we will appreciate that you shared those with us. So you moved from there was no information anywhere whatsoever to saying, well, there was a press statement. And talking about that press statement, Dennis, we have it here on Coca-Cola's website. Yeah, it is. That's Atlanta, correct. December the 7th, 2015. Mm-hmm. The Coca-Cola company today announced that Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer Alexander B. Cummings will retire March 31st, 2016, after more than 18 years of distinguished service to the company.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, yeah, it is. Yes, Coca-Cola website, Coca-Cola company Chief Executive Officer Alexander B. Cummings to retire.
That's correct. We have that. Everybody
Yeah,
have that.
because
Why
Mr.
you didn't
Gabriel, you were
state it?
saying he
Why
was
you didn't
fired.
state it?
When you go to
So why you
listen,
didn't state it? Why
listen,
you
when
didn't
you
state
Hold
it?
on, Jonathan.
listen.
Mr. Gabriel, you said Cummings was fired.
No, I didn't say he was
You said he
fired.
was
I said
booted out.
he was unceremoniously retired. That
right.
means
Yeah,
that means,
but this is not unceremonious retirement. They announced something that happened. They announced at least a year before he retired. So that's not unceremonious.
Listen, when you read that further, it tells you that Coca-Cola full retirement package is at 65. It will tell you.
No, Mr. Gaiman. I
Okay,
mean, let's get
so
it
we are
unceremonious.
saying,
The word
we are
used
telling you that Coca-Cola made a decision to get rid of Mr. Cummings
unceremonious
because Mr. Cummings was a
means that the
liability.
person
Cummings,
retires suddenly.
excuse
But the
me,
point
Cummings
here
was
is
a
that
liability
They
to
gave more
One
than
at a time,
7
gentlemen.
months.
One
They
at a
gave
time.
more than 7 months announcement for the main
Listen,
retirement. That's not unceremonious. That's
Mr. Krumah,
actual real retirement.
Mr. Krumah,
Yes, sir.
Mr.
I mean, look at so
Cummings,
that they announced it in
listen,
December
you see,
2018.
you're not
And the
listening
man retired when?
because
What's the
Mr.
date here again?
Mr. Krumah, listen
March
to this.
2016. I mean,
Mr. Krumah, that is the usual letter that comes from corporate. When you go to the Coca-Cola Wall of Fame of the retiree, the top executive, you will find a spot that's supposed to have Cummings. It is there with a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Excuse me,
at the end of the press release, listen, at the end of the press release, it will tell you that his position has been basically extinguished. That position will no longer be available. It was done with. It is there. Read it. Go in detail.
How we are going to America 15 years.
Thank you. Let's go to Mame and talk about the UNGA. President Weah is here. He's ambassador. What do we expect? If you put on your thinking cap, what do you think President Weah will be talking about here? And as Mr. C said, what do you think will be the benefit the country is going to reap from this visit?
One benefit I think the country will reap from Weah coming to the General Assembly, and I know he will have a couple of meetings with other U.S. officials, maybe the Black Caucus and other legislators that they've been working with. One good thing that will come out of Weah's visit to Liberia that we all will celebrate is Weah will go back to Liberia to fight corruption, to save himself. Weah will be instructed to go back to Liberia and take action on corrupt officials, whether it's past or current. I doubt whether he will be as ignorantly adamant as he is to not take that instruction seriously. I doubt he will be that adamant. So we expect a new Weah when he gets back when it comes to the fight against corruption. That is something we all should celebrate. Even though it's coming by force, it's a bitter pill he has to swallow, but he will have to do it. The risk he faces ahead of doing that is he might just be exposed as he decides to fight corruption, Nothing happening in Liberia with regards to state-owned enterprises diverting public resources that Weah is not aware of. Weah has been the person who has come out publicly in defense of public officials who have been indicted by integrity institutions. The president, not angry. The GAs, the LACC indicted the Minister of Agriculture, indicted the deputy head of LAGIS, and the president said in his response, the LACC report is not found out ready. I can take action on it. So the president is defending corrupt officials. So he comes to the US, they'll have the protocol, he will speak to the UN, he will speak to other people. Nothing that Liberians expect they will have from Weah. What I know that they should expect is Weah will begin to fire people, he will begin to take action to fight corruption, which we want, except that it will be belated and Liberian will realize that it is not his making, it was forced down his throat. So we expect that to happen. Gilman doesn't have anything to say about like President Weah coming to the US, so he decided to use his time to talk about Cummings. But that's fine. That is between he and the Cummings people. But we just wanted to highlight that, you know, as responsible as he is, you know, an elderly man, you know, you live your life, you secretary to Tom Wayu and stuff like that. When you come to these, you know, public gathering to speak, forget about we are like young boy, your integrity, your family, how your children will look at you when you sit on this type of platform and just make wild allegations on other people's character. How your children will think about you, how your family will see you to be. So think about it when you're talking about people you oppose Cummings to be president. I don't support Cummings to be president, but let's speak in a way that people take us seriously as we appear to be.
Mr. Jai.
Yeah, 30 seconds, so we can move to elections.
Well, first of all, when I'm talking here, I'm talking facts. You can debate anything. You cannot debate facts. Now, let me tell you briefly why the president is going to be so successful on this trip. You see, the president is.
Oh no! So if you want to use your time now to speak about excuse me. Excuse me. Time here to speak about it, and you decided to use
they gave me the time.
Hold on, mommy.
No, if you're using the time now to speak on what the president will do, then I will use additional time to respond to the baseless allegation you were making against other people. I decided to leave it because I wanted to use my time to tell you what the president will take back to Liberia.
You are not a moderator.
Hold on, mommy. Go ahead, Gamer. You got 30 seconds.
Dennis Jada was the host.
You got 30 seconds, Gamer. Go ahead.
When I think Mr. Mermaid doesn't know who I am, I will definitely not suggest that you talk about my children, my family. It is off the cuff. I would not allow that. My children know who I am. Washington, D.C. knows who I am. The Hill knows who I am. They know what I do. So my children are very proud everywhere they go because they know what their daddy does. So now let's go to the president coming to the UGA. The president is coming with a potpourri of success stories. When you look at the U.S. report, you look at all the reports that have come, Liberia has done very well in fighting corruption. The facts are there, the records there. You go and look at it. In fact, when you look at, you guys were talking about this Millennium Challenge. One of the areas that we fight consistently is corruption, the fight of corruption. It is there. So when we're talking these things, I don't know what part of it that you either have this amnesia. It's a selective amnesia. You want to elevate those things that make you look better, but then you do not want to speak on it. When you look at it, Millennium Challenge, and you don't see that Liberia have done well in corruption, then I don't need to be on here.
Thank you.
Mr. Sia, you can pull it up.
Thank you. That's another story. So we the election commission, the National Election Commission timetable is out, and you can see the day. I think most of you are familiar with what we have there. Some say they are very unrealistic. Census has been announced for November this year. Census, which has been, the date has been moved consistently. And so there was this issue with the election law, the magistrate, and all that. So considering everything that has happened and where we are now, the question is, are free, fair, and transparent elections possible, given the timetable from the NEC? Let me go back to start with Mami.
To be honest, and I could be wrong, to be honest, when I think about how we will be defeated in 2023 or how the election will go in 2023, one of the things I'm not thinking about and I've not bothered myself to think about is whether the election will be rigged. I don't think about it. I don't see it as a possibility. If he attempts to do it, he will enter the Yahya Jammeh. The attempt to cheat in the election will be broad, it will be clear, it will be visible, that ordinary people will see, it will expose Weah, and he will end up the way Yahya Jammeh ended up in his attempt to rig the election. What are the indicators? Unlike 2005, when there were strong allegations around rigging election, we did not have access to internet. We did not have smartphone. Social media were not working. Most of us who were seditionists and deploying people to different polling centers to mend the vote did not even know how to tally votes. We never even had poll washers and how to process the votes. Unlike that time, we've conducted successive elections. The population is conscious enough about all the different pitfalls that can lead to someone rigging an election. Political parties are conscious enough. They know how to create, roadblocks against rigging election. So from the population level to the political party level, ordinary citizens and voters are all conscious about how to prevent vote rigging. Where in Gbapolu County during the senatorial election, ordinary people were doing live video of an attempt to rig the election from Botokane. Ordinary citizens were doing live video. I was sitting in my living room in the US watching what was happening in the forest of Gbapolu because citizens were conscious about how to protect votes. That's one. The second thing is, most of the people who presided over the National Elections Commission before Weah are not in the rank and file of Weah and don't support him to be president. They are outside of the CDC arrangement. They are providing guidance to the different political parties to support, whether it's Unity Party, whether it's Jerome Kokoya, whether it is Fromoya. They are outside of the CDC arrangement. They're providing guidance day by day to the political parties to support on how to mend their votes. They are insiders that are outside providing guidance to political parties on what to do to ensure their votes are protected. That's one of the downsides to Weah. The final and most important thing is Liberia has become a scar on the democratic image of the US government. Everywhere the United States is speaking now, people are pointing to this country, Liberia, is your brainchild. How is it you are democratic? How is it you be into this intimate relationship with them? And they continue to be poor. They continue to have democratic issue. America now have made a decision. It's a whole of government decision in the United States that Liberia will work and Liberia will work better. Everything it will take America to make Liberia a success story, to remove the scar from on America's reputation, America will do it. That's the reason why the U.S. embassy is taking every. Listen to the ambassador each time he speaks. He speaks about transparent election. He takes action. He's written letter. He's following even the biometric process. He's following the procurement process. So everybody are on the ball. I don't imagine we are want to cheat. I doubt he will do it. But if he decides to do it, there are roadblocks from the ordinary voters to the political parties to our international partners. He cannot beat those roadblocks. He will be caught and he will be disgraced, as Yahya Jammeh was disgraced, if he attempts to do it.
Thank you. And let me go to Jonathan, and then and soon you can come in with your question. Jonathan, elections, most of the time, elections are won or lost long before elections, the day of election. Take, for instance, registration. The registration process should start December 15 to March 17. Also, the budgeted 61 million of that, 20 million have been received. There's a biometric system that is supposed to be in place. It's not even started yet. So with all these, the census that's supposed to happen before elections, census has been rescheduled multiple times. We're not sure if that's going to even happen. Sometimes census result in redistricting. So looking at all these, and the rules are always, people are looking at the elections law. All right. So with everything that we've seen so far, the question is, free, fair, democratic, transparent elections, are they possible?
Yes, I think your free, fair, transparent, incredible elections are possible and very possible too. not just possible by the government of the people of Liberia, but by the ordinary Liberians who, when they look back 175 years compared to their neighbors, think that there will be no short-circuit measure or twisted measure to circumvent anything but a free, fair, credible, and transparent elections. And by saying that, we mean that we, the opposition political parties, will follow it very religiously, very keenly, and will make sure we have representation to give the assurances to our electors. But the question is, do the misgiving in election take place on the day of election, or is it a wide range of processes that are put into play surreptitiously to circumvent the transparency of free, fair, and credible election? We say yes, and there are mitigating factors to that measure. Today, as we speak, the EKMM that was alleged to have been with suspicion that the Elections Commission is looking up to their surveys, according to what Frontpage Africa saw on their website for the biometric process, it sparked out the communication or diplomatic note that is a normal diplomatic note to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, other government agency as regards identification and ID cards, voter registration cards, driver licenses that must demonstrate that the U.S. Embassy is aware of Liberians' movement and global movement of people. So to be able to authenticate as to whether these ID cards are valid, they are regular movement. But because of the nature, the secrecy, because of the suspicion that President Weah, the only alternative to your second term bid is to govern appropriately and try to impede on the minds of Liberians that indeed you are rightfully suited to govern and they can trust your ability to give you another 6-year tenure. And if President Weah lacks that, he cannot revert to anything otherwise except to conduct a transparent process. And that is why the back and forth communication and clarification have been coming from the foreign ministry, as well as that of the embassy of the U.S. government. So I can assure you that President Weah, if he had done anything otherwise that Liberian people adopted him, the best that he will ever do, that I believe in 100%, is to have a democratic process and not slide our democracy and peace into the occupiers. That one, I can assure him that the opposition and Liberian citizens will stand up to him to making sure that they help him so that he execute that function. And that is why we opposition are going to assure our citizens, our general citizenry, that they should come to vote, they should participate in all of the processes. Lastly, on the censor, we hope that the censor will be to meet all of the needs. It comes to a delineation and boundary harmonization. It's a huge debate for those all with experience in the legislature against small counties and big counties. How that will be handled within just a year, we wait to see, and we will follow all these processes because election rigging, malfunction electoral process, it is not an event, it is a process leading to the failure.
Thank you.
Mr. Shea.
I want Morris to come in before you.
Okay, Morris.
Yeah. Go ahead, Morris.
Dennis, so I want to take a little point of departure from Mame and Dolake a little bit. I believe, this process is an orchestrated, well-organized plan that may disenfranchise a lot of Liberians. And let me, today, let's take today's date and this time right now, because what I'm predicting may come to pass. That the voters that will be identified and registered for this 2023 elections may be lower than the number of people that registered and voted in 2017. And there are several reasons why I believe so. One, the biometric system is not, it's not, it's not very popular in developing democracy. Whether we like it or not, that's the fact. Most developing democracy, use this normal hand printing voting process, and they're not doing it because some of them don't have the money to finance a biometric process. But biometric process, it takes a while to educate the voters on what that process require. Like Jonathan and Mami say, elections is next year. If you haven't started even recognizing who is a Liberian and who is not, and how the person is going to get through this biometric process that have never been used in the country before, there's a likelihood that a lot of people are going to get denied. A lot of people are going to lose interest in the process itself. Let's assume this process drag all the way to 6 months from now. And then suddenly, boom, we have to rush everybody through the process. That in itself is a disincentive for people to actually make effort to go and register to vote. And if the numbers of people that are register, if that number is low, there's a likelihood that it creates conflict. That conflict leads to having a magisterial process, a National Election Commission process that we have to investigate. Whether we agree or not, also, the commissioners that are on the Election Commission right now are all WIA appointees. Some of them have demonstrated publicly their interest and support for WIA. We all know that. But the law says if you go there and you are unsatisfied, you should go to the Supreme Court. And guess what? The folks on the Supreme Court, a majority, have been appointed also by WIA. WIA has a Southeasterner that is the Chief Justice now of the Supreme Court. I mean, spare me all the integrity conversation now. When it comes to that point, guess what? Whatever the Supreme Court decide, you can't go and say you're going to fight war, because the Supreme Court is the highest arbiter of the law. And if they make that decision, whether you're opposition, you want everybody got to fall in line. So there are pieces of evidence here and there that are smoke screen that people are not paying attention to, especially the opposition. We keep confidently saying that, we will not run this election. Nothing will happen. But there are mechanisms that are in place already that can indicate that whether it's a litigation process, it's an investigation process, the likelihood of that process going through clear law, as the law is clearly written, it will go through and the WIA candidacy may stand. If more people are not voted to register to vote, WIA may win the elections. Whether we argue about it or not, that is just what I think. And if WIA wins the election, we'll just go back and just make noise, and that's it. After 3 days, life moves on. Just my position.
Let's go to the unapologetic, unabashed sedition.
Yes, one of the things that I have to agree with all my panelists on here is that we have to jealously guide the process of the electoral process in Liberia. That we all agree to. And I also want to make some clarity here. The biometric is not about voting. It's not voting per se. Today, when you saw when they went before the Senate, they are using what they call best practices from around West Africa and other areas. They are saying, is it only to register, to make sure that when you are registered with your fingerprints and everything, which is basically your DNA, it will inhibit other people from trucking, which is a major issue in Liberia. If you registered and you are in Nuku Town, not because your cousin is in Douala or in Singa, that the whole family is just going to go there and vote for that. They will curtail that. So that one, and when you listen to Mr. Obasanjo and the Ghanaian rep, he said Liberia has the most transparent electoral process in the whole of West Africa, where people are actually counting the ballot manually. And all representatives sign, they all have access to the same data. and a copy of that is mounted on the wall for the public. There is no way that anybody can cheat here. So we know that, and I appreciate the fact that we are all signing this line that we should do all we can to make sure that we jealously guard this process. On closing, I would want to remind you of Joe Biden, what he said last week to my folks in the Republican Party. He says, democracy works only when you win. But when somebody else wins, then democracy is bad. Few months ago, when CDC lost almost every election in the country, when Darrell Dillon won, you were out there, the opposition were clapping, democracy worked. When CDC won in Lofa, all of a sudden, democracy are falling apart. So our integrity, the integrity of our election, it depends on you and myself for us to concede and then win and then to concede graciously. But you cannot accept victory and then deny to concede. This is where our democracy stands, and I think we have to work on that.
Thank you. Mr. Sear?
Yep, I think with that we can go to the final issue here, and which is that we're supposed to campaign. You know, this was.
Do you have that tip? Do you have that tip? That video is so fun.
This was brought to our attention by Eugene Fagon. You know, he went on to say, well, that means supposed to campaign for the CDC when Eugene Namwe is eating lobster, when Janga Ko is the Controller General and his wife is, what's the institution, PPCC? That means supposed to campaign. So this is a former official of the CDC government saying, I'm not going to campaign because of the things that members of the government, are doing, because he's saying it's going to make the campaign difficult for me. In fact, you need to pay me. So this segment here is about you, the panelists, coming in to tell us if you are not to campaign for somebody, what would be the reason you're not supposed to campaign for that person? And if you are to campaign for somebody, for example, in the case of my friend Mambe, who I believe will be campaigning for Tiawon Gonglo, what would be the reason he will be campaigning for Tiawon Gonglo? And if he is not to support or campaign for CDC, for example, why would he not be campaigning for the CDC or President Weah? So this is that means supposed to campaign segment. Dennis, let's get started. And go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you. And if you are out there and you are supposed to campaign for somebody, please write that why. So in the case of, and I use Mr. Dolake, he will first tell us who he's campaigning for and why in 1 minute. And then he takes the Eugene Fagon style and tell us why he's not campaigning for the person he's going to pick, right? So think about it. And we want you put on your best Eugene Fagon style when it comes to that means supposed to campaign. First, tell us who you're campaigning for and why, and then tell us who you are not campaigning for. You're only picking one of all the candidates that are vying for the presidency. And if you are out there and you are not supposed to campaign for somebody, please also write that in the comments. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can publicly say here that I don't have a candidate that I'm going to campaign for in this 2023 election publicly. And I can say any day because, I feel at some point maybe I'll make up my mind. But right now, I don't have a candidate, which puts me in a very terrible position. But, I can't see myself campaigning for President Weah. I will take any candidate over President Weah at this point.
Right. So that means supposed to campaign for Weah. So give us your Eugene impression of that. Why you're not campaigning for President Weah?
I mean, everything Fagon said on that table, that means supposed to campaign when we have friends and girlfriends are taking over key technical positions and they cannot function in those roles. That means supposed to campaign when people's lives are at stake when they arriving in a plane in Liberia. That means supposed to campaign when people dying at JFK daily from curable diseases, when medications are being siphoned personally by nurses and doctors. That means supposed to campaign when students are failing public tests and the education system is so jacked up, it's getting worse. That means supposed to campaign when people are poorer, prostitution is higher, and that means supposed to campaign when secret killing is happening in the country. I can go on and on from now till tomorrow morning. I will not stop because there's so many issues that are happening in the country that is taking our country backwards. But yeah, just a few of it.
Mr. C, how you make of that?
I think he had a flaw. He got me tempted to go, but I'm moderating today, so I will not do that.
Let's go to the unapologetic sedition.
Well,
Let's
obviously,
go with who you campaigning for, and then who's supposed to campaign. Go ahead.
Obviously, I'm already campaigning for the president, the best president of Liberia since 1847. That's President Weah. And that means supposed to campaign for Alexander Cummings, who don't know Liberia. That means supposed to campaign. That means supposed to campaign for Alexander Cummings, a man who just came to Liberia only when he wanted to run for president. That means supposed to campaign for Alexander Cummings when he worked for Coca-Cola. When we were in a war, President Weah asked him, where were you? That means supposed to campaign. That means supposed to campaign for Alexander Cummings when he said the people should tote him in Hammer, and they tore him in Hammer all over the place. That means supposed to campaign for a man like that. It will never happen. That's why I'm campaigning for the president.
Thank you. Let's go to what do you make of Mr. C? What do you make of Mr. Given?
I think he had a flaw. He had a flaw, and that's how it should be. He was on point.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Jonathan Dolake. Who you campaigning for and who you not campaigning for?
Of course, I'm campaigning for Mr. Cummings, Alexander Benedict Cummings of the CPP, because Liberia is not suffering from politicians, from populist president or populist candidate. Liberia is suffering from a manager who can control the wealth of our country and distribute it. And that can only be measurable by the track record, which Mr. Gilmer fell flat to his belly this evening when he provided false information until he was corrected by CA and the records were set right, and then he admitted that except a press release. So I'm not supposed to campaign. I'm not supposed to campaign for all of the
campaign. Hold on, you got to go to Eugene start. That means supposed to campaign.
That means supposed to campaign. That means supposed to campaign for all of the reasons Eugene Falcon Libya and Malu Libya, as if we are giving jobs to his cronies, girlfriends, associates, friends, and taking the country resources and money that has been lobbied for overseas and personalizing it. That means so to campaign. And not so to campaign for 20 million to be meant to be used to mop up SSI, and then somewhere to give it to a friend and the business and not registered. There is no trace, there is no link. That means so to campaign for ritualistic killing going on, where Ellen Kogan is labeling allegations on members of the government agents, and then they are still protecting Ellen Kogan and smuggle out of the country. That means so the campaign for sanctioned official, and the president is not taking the rightful steps until he's been pressured, as if though he one of the accomplices to the corrupt official. That means so the campaign for Ministry of State budget to be more than the entire judiciary that the government is working tirelessly and earnestly to break down, from whence they charge our own associate justice for action he took under the protection of his full responsibility. Nana means so to campaign. Nana means so to campaign to see the Solicitor General prosecuting people with all facts and evidence, only because you want to besmear their character and be done with them, and not supposed to campaign. And so we will not campaign for President Weah. Instead, I will campaign for Alex Cummings, who will set the tone for our country, who will set the agenda for our country, who will wake up as early as possible, as he was punctual on his corporate responsibility, and will know what it means to protect those corporate investments that will be coming to our country, but through the rule of law, as much as protecting the interests of the ordinary Liberian by providing services for our country.
Dennis, I think he had it, and he came up with a closer, in favor of his candidate. I think he got the floor. He listed the reason why he's not supposed to campaign for the CDC. Give reason why he was campaigning for his candidate, Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. I think he had it.
Good. Viewers out there, who are you campaigning for and who you're not supposed to campaign for? Please put that in the writing. And also, we will open the phone lines.
Don't leave Mr. Abdullah out.
Oh yeah, we're not forgetting him.
Okay.
No, we're not forgetting. And if you are out there and you are impressed with Focus on Liberia, that means supposed to campaign, give us some stars there. Let's go to Mr. Amine.
Yes, so I ask you to share. I will go to the Eugene Fagon style later on. I'm trying to practice, but I ask you actually to share something that I want to point to on why I can campaign for We Are. I mean, just share it. So, for technical purposes, the World Bank and other institutions to try to measure growth in the country, one thing we use is what we call per capita GDP. What that means is basically you take all the wealth of the country and divide it among all the citizens. How much each person will carry is what we call per capita GDP. In 2017, up there, Liberians were worth per person $721, 2017. When George Weah took over, it began to drop. You can see it dropping. Until today, it is $673. So it dropped from $721, the worth of individual Liberian, from $721 in 2017 to $673 in 2022. When Ivory Coast is a citizen in Ivory Coast is worth $2,578. A citizen in Ghana is worth $2,445. A citizen in Guinea is worth $1,174. In Liberia, we have declined from 721 in 2017 to 673 in 2023. That's how the George Weah administration has made Liberian poorer. And that's the World Bank. That's why I asked you to share it. That's the World Bank. George Weah administration has made Liberian poorer. But not only has it made Liberian poorer, it has made George Weah and few people around George Weah 10 times richer. That means supposed to campaign for a president whose leadership has made the people poorer and making richer. That means supposed to campaign for a president who is defending corrupt officials who steals from the ordinary people and will say publicly that an audit report of an anti-graft institution is not a final verdict, so he cannot take action. That means supposed to campaign for a president who build mansions while teachers don't have horses to live in. That means supposed to campaign for a president who will use $1 million to build a market building and cost it at over $3 million and put the rest in his pocket. That means supposed to campaign for a president who does not have a sense of direction on where the country is going. I can't do that. What I can do is I can campaign for a president who has the character, the commitment, the track record to solve Liberia's fundamental problem at the moment. That fundamental problem that is preventing everything from happening in Liberia is corruption, and the candidate that has the character, the track record, and readiness to fight corruption is Tiawan Gonglo. And that's the reason why I will campaign for Tiawan.
Mr. Sear, I think your panel is nailing.
They are all nailing it. Mambe started with a research, and he based his research on why he will not campaign for President Weah, and in his Eugene Fagon voice, that means supposed to campaign, and he went on with his list. Then I think we the moderators have to jump in this. This is juicy. I don't know what you think.
I'm not campaigning. Let's bring on few of our viewers and who they are campaigning for. Question Harris said, that means supposed to campaign when George Weah made corruption legal. Lawrence said, that means supposed to campaign ABC, who doesn't have the stronghold. I will campaign for great men walking.
Okay.
So that's George M. Weah. Great man walking.
Oh, that's what it means.
Yes.
Working. So then it's like encourage our viewers to give that means supposed to campaign.
Where I say I'm campaigning for ABC and not supposed to campaign for George Weah. Come on, put that in your Eugene Fagon style.
Start with that means supposed to campaign and the reason why you're not supposed to campaign. That's what we
Vivian Wheeler, that means supposed to campaign for my own family members to be murdered without justice. That means supposed to campaign, and you're supposed to put that, and you're supposed to say, "Oh, that means supposed to campaign." Call us if you want to join the conversation. The number is on the screen. That's 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#.
I was just about to say, I think with the number, we'll get more out of them because sometimes writing is a little difficult. It takes a lot of time. So we're going to share the number here in the Facebook live feed as well. We will appreciate it if you can call, even if you give us one reason why you will not, you're not supposed to campaign. And if you are to support campaign for somebody, at least one reason why you will campaign for that person, and it would be great and it will be enriching. This is Focus on Liberia, Friday night debate. I'm Anthony C. along with my partner, Dennis Jah. If you are just joining us, we want to say welcome. And we want to hear that in your Eugene Falcon voice. That means supposed to campaign, give your reason, and also tell us who you are going to campaign for. While we wait, the number is posted there. Please call. Let's hear from Evans Morris here. He said, I mean supposed to campaign for Old Sleepy JMB. I will campaign for Gonglo. They are submitting comments here. So the phone line is right there, folks. It's in the live feed. Also, please call. Let's hear your Eugene Falcon voice. Participate. The discussion is getting juicy here. Dennis?
We got one caller and Melicent Yadolo. Melicent, you're live. Go ahead. Who you campaigning for?
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you so much. I've been following the whole show from the start to where it is now. I got a number of issues to make comment on before I come to who I'm campaigning for.
Just be brief. We got a lot of callers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Dennis, this is the thing. These opposition in Liberia, they have nothing substantial to tell the Liberian people. The issue of electricity RRA, I worked for Firestone for 9 years, from 1999 to 2008 when I migrated to the United States. The only hydro Liberia has in Monrovia was damaged in 1990 war. It was that hydro that electrified from Monrovia, Kakata, as far as Bicano. That's the farthest distance LEC from the hydro ever went in Liberia. So when it was destroyed during the war, throughout during Chancellor Day, it was Firestone mini hydro. Firestone got our own hydro built over the Farmington River behind Cutting Tree.
Oh God.
Firestone Chancellor.
Forever.
Mr. Yadolo,
let's hear.
I want to clarify that part.
Yeah, we got it. Our panelists, our panelists did well. Our individual can have current.
Let me get to the campaign.
Yeah.
There is no way I will use my time as I did in 2017. I'm a registered CDC member from 2005. But in 2017, I supported Arizona Cummings. That brother sitting down in the state record generator is my own brother. He was from almost the same village in Nima County. I have both numbers, Faircon and Lunsa number. I got Winston.
Who you campaigning for?
Yeah.
And who you not campaigning for?
All that biography there, not necessary.
George Manuel Weah for the many accomplishments he has achieved in the country in the past few years.
Father for Kawi? You go carry?
In Nima County from Ganta to go to the southeast, road from Ganta to go to Logwato, Africa Polo, and other major projects through all Liberia, left and breadth of Liberia.
Okay.
This is the man I'm campaigning for.
Oh man, you don't know about
Now
that.
you're using Fagon start. That means supposed to campaign. Go ahead.
That means supposed to campaign for men Ezra Kumi that he had a 99% of that pro-Liberian support in 2017 that could now win any legislative seat in the whole Republic of Liberia from the 15 countries. No representative was won for him. That means supposed to campaign for men Ezra Kumi that had no base in the whole 15 countries in Liberia. That means supposed to campaign for men Ezra Kumi that pro-Liberia, including me, took him as a clean and person with integrity based on your own words that you cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect to get different results and campaign against corrupt people who one of them stole him on the debate stage face to face that we squander opportunity wanted to go and be in there with them. That means supposed to campaign for a desperate man Ezra Kumi who is doing everything impossible to see himself become president of Liberia. That means supposed to campaign for a man Ezra Kumi who is so desperate, he's not helping his own people. He's taking $180,000 United States dollars, giving it to Adding White in United States to impose sanctions on the people of Liberia that he claims that they are suffering. That means supposed to campaign for a desperate man Ezra Kumi living that of in jail in New Jersey and buying a party through the party chairman in Morovia because of desperation. That means supposed to campaign.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, you guys are nailing it. Let's go to our next caller here. Call out your name and where you calling from.
My name is Vasco Dave Corner. I call to you from Sacramento, California, USA.
Go ahead. Who you campaigning for and who you not campaigning for?
First of all, I want to say hi to the gentleman in studio, big brother Famoli Maurice Kumar, and my nephew and cousin and brother Ambule Mande and other people. I want to campaign for anyone that will go against President Weah. I supported a campaign for Justice Weah in the last two elections in Liberia. And at this stage, if I hear someone discussing that they're going to campaign for Justice Weah, it is sad that you're going to say that. Because to be some of you elect someone who you have trust in. That's not today we are muted when it comes to politics in Liberia on Facebook. Because we have followers and we convince people we want to war. We put our integrity on the line. We put our education. Those that follow us, those are supposed to be people who make good decisions, right? We brought them to public disrepute by electing Justice Weah.
Thank you. So let's go with your Eugene Fagon style now. Who you not campaigning for?
I'm not supposed to campaign. I'm supposed to campaign for a man who cannot run his own country when the U.S. government has to dictate to him to tell how to run his country. I'm not supposed to campaign for a man who does not have integrity. I'm not supposed to campaign for a man who cannot even put life continually on one of the main sources to his family, like the IRA. I'm not supposed to campaign for a man who does not able to do his own job. I'm not supposed to campaign for a man like Justice Weah and CDC who has turned his back against his own party chairman. I'm not supposed to campaign for a man who only cares about he and two guys in the government to enrich themselves. I'm not supposed to campaign for a president who does not know what to do Monday morning, who will go to play basketball on a Monday. I'm not supposed to campaign for a president who cannot address the nation when people are calling on to address when he said to play basketball and do the right for this.
Thank you. You nailed it again. Our guests our callers are responding very well. Let me welcome this edition from North Dakota, Teddy Yankun. Teddy, who are you campaigning for and who you're not supposed to campaign for?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Please turn off the gadget you are listening to, and go ahead quickly.
You get me clearly?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you have to mute that thing. Tell him to mute
Mute
that.
your whatever you're listening to hear the show. Mute it, please. Go ahead. Who you campaigning for and who you're not supposed to campaign for? Go ahead quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Terry Lion Yakun. You know, I see some of your panelists, you know, or guests. They kind of, you know, trying to
Teddy, just hit the point. Just hit the point. We got more colors.
On President Weah, but you know, absolutely, I campaign for President George Manneh Weah because he's the only one that always shows any, you know, tangible, you know, anything that, you know, when it comes to governing, when it comes to the past, how we were treated, how our country was misused. And
so who you not campaigning for and why? Quickly, Teddy, we got more colors.
He been retaining our importance, you know, on the international scene. So George Manneh Weah is the one I will campaign for because he's the one came up with insurmountable, you know, development, you know, developmental process for our country, and we hope that he should, you know, be re-elected so that.
Teddy, who you will not campaign for? We don't have time. We don't have all this time. Who will you not campaign for and why? That means supposed to campaign. That's how you should start.
Well, you know, I don't want to make mockery out of you know, the general.
All right.
You know, we the military on the front line.
Thank you.
We miss him. You know, Fagon. We need Fagon back. But you know, Fagon, he needs to just calm down a little bit.
Thank you.
Know, those
thank you.
You know, missiles to oppositions to attack the party.
Thank you.
We miss him.
Thank
you.
You
know, as a frontline soldier, I wish Fagon. I know he believes.
Thank you. Let's go to John Mavlo. John, who you campaigning for and who you not supposed to campaign for? Quickly.
Well, how you doing? Good evening to all. Well, who I'm campaigning for is not a secret. It's an open secret that I campaign for Mr. Cummings. And just before I tell you who I'm not campaigning for, Gilman, if you don't know that clothing people in Hamak is part of Liberian culture, especially in the Southeast, then maybe you have stayed too long outside the country and need to go back and refresh your memory about the culture. Well, that means supposed to campaign for a government that can secure the people. That means supposed to campaign for a government that lives on lives. That means supposed to campaign for a government that waited for 12 years every day and came to power not knowing that they were supposed to do some work and always blaming the opposition. That means supposed to campaign for a government where few people in 4 years become millionaires but no medicine in the hospital. I will never, ever campaign for two people.
Thank you.
The people who are corrupt and the people who got no vision.
Thank you. We got one more caller here, but before that, let me see. We got Benson Mason. That means supposed to campaign for Park Oka GMB. That means supposed to campaign for Bobo George Weah, who legalized corruption. It will say that means supposed to campaign for George Weah to support corruption. I will campaign for ABC. This one, Bendu, Vivian Wheeler said that means supposed to campaign for Band-Aid solution from George Weah. Oh, that means supposed to campaign for George Weah to go relax and not do work he was hired to do. We're not stupid. We're not stupid here. Bendu Griffin said that means supposed to campaign for improving leadership ability, campaign for impunity, gross human rights violation and suppression of women's rights, rape and refusal to help our people. I will campaign for Cummings, who has done more for Liberia than any other candidate. Let's bring in one more caller here. Is that Cecilia Page? Call your name and where you calling from.
Samson One here, calling from Boston tonight.
Go ahead, Samson. Who are you campaigning for and who you're not supposed to campaign for?
I'm campaigning for Great Men Walking, for better rule, for better education, for better hospitals, and many more.
Thank you. So who you not campaigning for and why?
I cannot campaign for man who's struggling with his lifestyle. I cannot campaign for man who pay international community to sanction his own country. I cannot campaign for men who pay people to protest 24/7. I cannot campaign for old man Sleepy Braga. Joe Weah is my child, and he is going 2023. I want you to please be fair on this show. Please take all the comments, please. You only take comments that in favor of Kumi. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Those were all our callers here. This one is a. Please clarify this for me. The viewer will learn that the 3 sanctioned government employee has sent in their resignation. Please, did the president accept their resignation? If not, are they still in the government? Yes, the president accepted their resignation. They resigned. All right, Mr. Sear.
Yep, and to add to your response to that comment, because they resign, they are not in the government. That's how it works. If you resign from a job, you're not there. If you resign from an organization, you are no longer a member. If you don't just resign your position, but so that's what it is. Yeah. Then I think I enjoying the that I've been supposed to campaign. So I think we're going to extend it, but this time to another level. We have senators, people running for the Senate. We have Amara Conan. We heard about McGay, who is to be petitioned to run. We have Bedwell, so one more round. Representatives and senators that you're not supposed to campaign for, and why? I enjoy this.
The time of let me take one caller, and then our panelists will give their closing comment. This one is Bendu Washington calling from California. Bendu, who are you campaigning for? Who are you campaigning for?
Hello.
Hi, Bendu.
Oh. Well, let me get started. How are you? So that's a campaign for somebody that does not that does not take care of women, that does not believe in protecting women, that allow rapists, murderers, ritualistic killings to go on. That means supposed to campaign for a president that doesn't even have the ability to stand up and speak and to debate and to say what the country needs to hear. That means supposed to campaign for people that have been in power for 40-something years, but still cannot point to anything sustainable and say this is what we did for the country. That means it's supposed to campaign for somebody that's just trying to test the waters, that's don't even really want to be president, just trying to see what popularity and contest they can win. That means supposed to campaign for a president that cannot get rid of people that have been sanctioned, people that are corrupt. That means supposed to campaign for stuff like that? No. I would campaign for Mr. Cummings because he's the only one that has stood the test of time. He is the only one that can point to sustainable projects and say this is just for the Liberian people. He is the only one that even after he lost election, he has still been doing for his people. I would campaign for Mr. Cummings because Mr. Cummings stood the test of time. When we say clean hands, his hands was clean. When other parties, when the government of Liberia were lying on him, dragging him through courts, not one piece of dirt they could find on him. I will campaign for Mr. Cummings. I will come to Liberia and campaign. I will not campaign for people that do not deserve to lead our people because they are not leaders.
Thank you.
That means supposed to campaign for them? Oh, no, I don't think so. I'm not campaigning for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, that means supposed to campaign? Let's go around the room and get your closing comment. Thank you so much. It's been a very, very healthy and spiritual discussion right here on FOL, and you can get this anywhere else. Let's start with Mr. Maurice Nkrumah. Your closing comment, sir.
So Dennis, thank you so much for the opportunity again. I always, relish the opportunity to sit with some of my brothers to talk about, the interests of our country and talk about how, all of us can contribute one way or the other to the development of the country. Development is certainly a process that built on each other. So one of the reasons why I always attempt to challenge the WIA administration is because I believe that some of the progress we made between 2005 and 2017, the WIA administration did not manage to hold on to that process and build upon it. And I think it's because they were, challenging most of what we did as a country. And so the expectation that they were supposed to develop more than what happened kind of held them back because they didn't have the capacity to deliver on those things. At this point, I think we've regressed as a country. I think there are plenty of evidence to show that we are regressing and we are not making any progress. We're not building on the gains from the EJS administration. And so we have to continue to talk about these facts without the emotions. I really appreciate the opportunity, Dennis. Unfortunately, sometimes I get really tied up in my own personal things, and so I'm unable to come sometimes, but I'm always available to come and talk about these issues as much as I can. Thank you, Dolake. It's good to see you. Ambulai Mame, Mr. Gayman. Anthony, you know where we are. So Dennis, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. And if you are watching on the big screen, like Dr. Abdullah Dukle, please send us your screen. Send us a screen share. You are watching on the big screen in your living room or in your bedroom. You are on the big screen on YouTube, please. This one came from Dr. Abdullah Dukle. Let me go to Mr. Mame for your closing comments, sir.
Yeah, closing. We still has time to fix some of the things before he can leave. The point we want to remind him about is when you take over a poor country as Liberia, you try to focus and direct resources into areas that generate returns, immediate returns to the country. While you do that, you pay keen attention to the sources of revenue that will enable you to implement your development plan. You cannot lead a country spending resources on things that don't generate returns to you immediately. You prioritize them rather than spending time and resources on things that generate resources for you to implement your development program. There is no excuse that within 5 years, you arguing about navigator at an airport. There is no excuse. You must take responsibility for the failure to provide leadership. There is no excuse in 5 years to not point to one official of the previous administrations that you blame for corruption. You blame them that they stole from the people. They kept your people in West Point and Yucatan poor and in desperate condition because they stole state resources. You come to power 5 years on. You can't point to one prosecution. You must take responsibility for your failure to fight corruption. You must take responsibility for your failure to provide leadership, and you must get ready to leave so that we can bring in a leader who can fight corruption, save resources, invest in social services, and bring our country back on par. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Dolake Tayo. No, Jonathan Tayo Dolake.
Thank you so very kindly, Mr. Jai, for the invitation extended me and other colleagues on this platform. Thanks to Sia, thanks to Mahami that spoke ahead of me, and also to Kuma who spoke before me. Also thanks to Gilman that will be speaking lastly. But I'd like to say very quickly that though the question was asked and we have not answered it, or it was not in the line of the answer needed, but I just like to say the nomenclature is attached to Mr. McIntosh and Ambassador Louis Brown as people from the NPP NP background who support or endorse Mr. Cummings come with a growth, not just a growth of what the connotation of the NPP or the NPFL did, but with a driving force that they have contributed immensely to the recovery process of our democracy and keep yearning to contribute their quota to public service and advancement of our democracy. I'd like to say very quickly that 2020, we witnessed an unprecedented event in Maryland County where there were polling places that were identified on the election roll but could not be seen physically. And we discovered that as opposition and reported to the National Elections Commission. We are can fairly analyze that we hope to assist the Election Commission in whatever direction as ordinary citizens, as political institutions, to making sure that we have a credible democratic process that is a measurement of the barometer of our democracy through regular elections. I want to lastly say the essence of the 2023 election will be about as to whether we are better off or far better off or near better off where we are now to where we were 2017. And by the scorecard that Amla Mohamed read, between 700 to 600 index, as what Liberians are living on, it demonstrates clearly that we are lagging backward. What I can finally say is that the likes of my brother Jerome Gimel and Fadoro, who claim to come from my village, which is a lie to say here, I'm from Kanwi, I'm from district number 8, my village is Kanwi. Fadoro doesn't come from Kanwi, and it's just a disservice that on a public conversation, you come and lie.
You're trying to disown the brother for political differences?
No, not disown. I'm for Kanwi. I'm studying, I'm for Kanwi. Just before Saglepie. And Fadoro say he come from the village I come from, and he's not from there. So there, it is not true. I need to say it. That's how we build the kind of democracy that we want.
So the message you get yourself come and you get your loan start number. I use you the man.
Yeah. So unlike my brother Game and others will say the grading of George Weah by 80% of the past administration, it was an amnesia to have thought that 80% is a failing grade, and the Game and studied 80%, and now they are thinking that it's a passing grade and they want to retreat for it. I think it is also disingenuous. You graded the government, a passing government. You come back to say the government they done was very corrupt. You have not punished anybody. You had an asset recovery team led by Arthur Johnson, left the country, said I'm going to set up mechanics to bring up the recovery process. You abandoned it. You abandoned work ground that you made commitment to, and you abandoned everything. And after 5 years, you are holding the past government responsible for the dam at Farmington River in Habia, as though it was what Madasari was. And it is disingenuous. Let us face our problem. Let us own up to it and fix it. And that is why we think the person to do it is Mr. Cummings. He comes with the spirit of a manager, and as a manager, he will seek the private investment interests as well as he will seek the government of Liberia and its people protection of services that should be run that the likes of SM Brussels, the airport, the road that leads to the airport, financial discipline, corruption, and rule of law taking place.
Thank you. I think we skipped this one from Jefferson Doe. I'm boldly promoting the campaign message of Mr. ABC. That means supposed to campaign for a broken legal system. Oh yeah, we read this. Sorry. Let's go to Mr. The unapologetic sedition will have the last word. Mr. Gilman, your closing comment. Unmute, please. Unmute, please. Unmute.
Thank you very much to the panelists. Mr. Doloke, my first time encountering with you, I think you are a great person. Mr. Kroma, I've always admired you. Mame, quite brilliant young man. Hopefully we all can continue to advocate for our country. Like I have always said, this is what Liberia needs. If we have had this in the 80s, I don't think we would have gone to war. So this is a great place. And I want to thank Mr. Jai and CA for providing the platform where we can come and exchange ideas. But in closing, let me tell you why President Weah is the greatest president that have ever walked on the face of Liberia, on that soil. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to read just a quick passage for you. I want to first begin with my colleague, Mr. Memmi, when he said,
how do you compare we are with Edwin Barkley?
I'm coming there.
All right.
We are talking about, he said that Liberia's economy has declined, the personal income per capita has declined, and he compared them to Ghana and Ivory Coast, Guinea. And then when you look at Ghana's economy is 72.35 billion. You look at the Ivory Coast, 61.35 billion. Guinea, 33.84 billion. Liberia, 555 million. There is no comparison, none whatsoever. Now let me come to the World Bank. What it says here, it says the average inflation has dropped to 5%. During the review period, Liberia missed the criteria slightly, okay? It says, but from 30%, inflation 30%, it is now down to 7.9%. And the caveat said both averages in the end period was largely explained by the central bank's monetary policy stand coupled with the appreciation of the domestic currency and the constrained demand. We are talking about the international community here. Now, let's talk about Mr. Brown endorsing Mr. Comey. Hey, man, Mr. Comey said he was a man of clean hands, man of character. Brown said...
You're introducing a new issue?
No. He mentioned this in his closing remark. And he said Brown and these people endorsed Comey. Brown said he walked across the line and he went to Taylor territory and saw bodies and dogs devouring human beings. But yet he worked for the man and he said, I was only doing it for my country. That is dead weight. That is dead weight. And for Ellen Johnson to leave Mr. Nkrumah, Ellen Johnson has 15,000 troops in Liberia. George Weah has nothing. So when you talk about keeping the peace, you got to give him credit. You have to give him credit.
Thank you.
We're talking about Ellen Johnson has $17.9 billion US for nothing to show for it. George Weah has 250 million. It's nothing. So this man is actually
17 billion. Did you say 17 billion?
Hold on, Mr. Nkrumah. That's the reason we made him last. So you can have the chance to spin.
Come on, you see, you call it this.
But where 17 billion ever passed through in Liberia?
The president
said,
finish.
I love it. You know the numbers. The numbers are really, really interesting.
You see when you guys were talking. You see where I hit them hard, then they start coming. Okay, now President, we're supposed to be this incompetent guy, determined that for investment to come, you need electricity, you need all of those things. And the president said it roads, and utilities. Now we're going to turn the big light on. And now look at that. So, ladies and gentlemen, the guy can let me talk. So, Mr. Shea, thank you very much for the discussion. But President, we're going to be re-elected in the first round. One round.
Thank you. Talking about the World Bank, here's a comment from one of our viewers. He said the World Bank and IMF said Tunisia was a success story 2 months before the Arab Spring.
Exactly.
But, Mr. Shea, let's close.
And then it's talking about closing. I want to remind Mr. Gilbert that the very international community, the World Bank, the IMF, every projection, that projection we're talking about, these are not actual numbers.
Yep.
Every projection they've made for Liberia have never come true 100% as predicted. So I don't listen to that. And there's an obvious reason for that, right? We don't have those mechanisms and methods into place as here in the US that can give you some level of accuracy with these kind of projection. So they're just doing something for them to earn money.
You can't argue the fact, my brother, is right here. Liberia outperformed 6 other countries in West Africa. What can we say?
I agree that somebody wrote it, and that is the fact, right? So let it be the fact for what it is because somebody wrote it.
President, we are
far from the reality. Hey, we want to say thanks to our panelists. I think the debate was entertaining as well as informative. We will not hesitate to get back to you to continue on this Focus on Liberia Friday night debate. Mr. Gilman is a supporter of the government, so we understand, how he does it. The ambassador is fired. Who knows what he's up to? Maybe he might land that job. He's doing the best he can, for the sake of country. He said it right. If we have had this opportunity of debating the issue, probably would not have gone back to war. That is
that means supposed to campaign for gay men to be ambassador when he hears spinning. Oh, that means supposed to campaign. Go ahead, Mr. Sear.
That means supposed to campaign when he's a spin doctor and he believes that Georgia is the best president of Liberia ever since 1847. Oh, that means supposed to campaign. Anyway, folks,
you see how they treat me here?
So thanks to our viewers. This is how we'll come to the end of yet another Friday night debate here, Focus on Liberia. And as always, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians. Let us be Liberians. For we are Liberians. Let us be." That's the only way we can make it happen as Liberians. Thank you and bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace, guys. Peace.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.